Welcome to Rage Against the Mainstream, your full spectrum source for all things music, insight, and opinion. Welcome to season 4. Obviously, I'm cool. I'm conceited enough to be like, I knew that we'd be here.
Did you though?
I don't know. After last season, I wasn't 100% sure if we would make it.
I don't think so either. I think we would make it 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But look at us now.
Look at us now. Actually,
Look at us now.
Wow. So, those of you that follow us on social media know that we have signed with Legend Entertainment.
As well as got video equipment, if you didn't get that pun earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, obviously, things starting to move forward with the show. Bigger and better, I believe.
Bigger, faster, stronger.
We say it every season, like, oh, this is better than the last
but the
one.
interesting is, though, it's every season, I don't know how we managed to find something else that we weren't doing in the first place.
Yeah.
Maybe we're just inept people. Like, we could have been doing this, like, way long ago. But it is cool because every season we were, like, doing something different.
Well, I don't know what it is. I think it's maybe because, like, now, like, the podcast market is starting to get so flooded.
It's already been, though.
Yeah, but, like, now it's, like, well, especially with, like, last year, like, more and more people are doing it now.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, well, that's what these guys are doing. And we're already better than that, so let's do this just that little bit better.
Better.
And then now it's like, welcome to video.
But we're not better than anybody else.
No. I mean, I guarantee you somewhere in a comment section somewhere, they're like, listen to those fucking assholes. There's no way. There's no way. So, yeah, today's date's August 2nd. We haven't posted since April, I believe it was. So, quite a few months. Do you have anything new or interesting?
A lot of new and interesting. It is interesting.
What's been up?
That is the real question, isn't it?
Exactly.
Definitely not the economy, but we're not here to talk about that. Football season's also right around the corner, but we're not going to talk about that either. What I will talk about, though, is... Now, there was a lot that happened, and it sucks because this is like my safe space to talk about all things music, right?
Music, insight, and opinion.
Exactly. The problem is when we have these breaks is like I've always said, this is like my place to be able to talk about this, and this is what I do on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Now, for those listening, me and Bill used to live pretty close to each other, now we don't. So my banter is very pent up in being able to talk about shit because nobody wants to fucking hear about me talking about how Paul Di'Anno was the best vocalist for Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
Nobody fucking cares. They just want to just like not talk about that at all. So I get to do that here. And I will talk about that because Iron Maiden, coincidentally, is coming out with a new album. Now, I'm not 100% sure if I'm pronouncing this correctly. It is Japanese, but it's Senjutsu. And the album... They released the song. It was called The Writing on the Wall. This song runs just over 6 minutes.
Oh, God.
The instrumental work is very epic, battle-hardened Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's like their theme. But the song itself, man, like, it's 6 minutes. It did not need to be fucking 6 minutes. Like, it is very repetitive. It's very Dickinson Maiden.
Yeah.
It's listenable, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But dude, I was looking at the whole album. The whole album runs like 84 minutes with other songs running 11, 12, like Rime of the Ancient Mariner type fucking songs.
Yeah.
So Iron Maiden for me was always one of those bands. They've kind of become like the AC/DC of heavy metal. They're kind of putting out the same shit over and over, long, epic,
They've been doing that for a while,
For a while, man. The only thing I will say that comes from this, though, and if you haven't seen Iron Maiden live, you definitely should. It's an experience. It's fun. They do put on a good show. So the only thing that sucks is you're probably going to hear a majority of songs from this new album because it'll be like an album release tour. But Yeah, I heard the new song. It's called The Writing on the Wall. The album's called Senjutsu. I'm going to listen to the whole thing. I mean, at some point, I just have to find 80 fucking minutes to dedicate to it. So, yeah, that was like, other than a lot of other shit, that was probably the most relevant, new, and interesting for me recently. And what about you, Bill?
Well, before the show ended last season, Wolfgang Van Halen, or Mammoth WVH, released, I believe it was just Distance and maybe another song too. But since then, the album fully came out, just titled Mammoth WVH, came out July or June 16th. I think it was June 16th. I had a chance to sit down and listen to the entire thing.
And?
It's modern rock.
Yeah, the hesitation.
It's modern rock, dude. I didn't expect it to sound like Van Halen. I didn't want it to sound like Van Halen.
But you know for a fact you had some sort of...
Yeah, I had like something there. And it's not necessarily I think it's bad, because I don't. It's just not my brand of like hard rock, I guess. And the way that the album is, I think it's going to be very hard for him to follow it up.
You think like he just went as hard as he could on the album? And
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, then again, look at who his family is. There's a possibility that there's more deep down inside of him. But I just don't, I don't know. I don't see any kind of longevity in his career and writing a new album. I think to be able to determine how good he is would be how his next album is.
All right, so let's call this the Halloween 3 comparison, right?
Okay.
Halloween 3 catches a lot of shit because it's part of the Halloween franchise, so everyone has a bias. So let's use this in context. This album, let's say it gets released under some fucking Joe Schmo.
Okay.
New heavy metal hard rock act. Are you interested in it?
I think I would listen to like the singles that had come out and I'd be like, all right, they're not bad.
But I'm saying the ties to a certain individual.
Yeah, if the ties weren't there,
yeah.
I wouldn't have given the entire album a listen.
Okay.
I would have heard the first two. If Distance would have came out and had it not be from Wolfgang Van Halen,
it was just like by some band,
I wouldn't have listened to the album because I really didn't like that song.
Okay, so you had the interest.
Exactly.
See, that's tough, man. I feel bad for him because that's probably a lot of people feel that way. They're trying to find some comfort in listening to.
Well, people are super dick hard about it. I'm not.
Well,
I
was super dick hard about fucking Tool's new album until it like wore off. And like,
but here's the thing too.
Great.
The thing with the Wolfgang Van Halen album is like before Eddie Van Halen died, every interview he did, and people would talk about how great he is. He would go, "Wait until you hear my son's album."
Oh god!
Literally, there's a video on YouTube, him receiving an award at the Smithsonian, right? And the interviewer was like, "You've done so much in music and blah blah blah, and you're so great." And he's like, "You think that's great? Wait until you hear my son's album. It's groundbreaking shit, like no bullshit." And I was like, "Damn, if he says this, like this must be really fucking good." Considering the fact that he claims the last album he bought was Peter Gabriel's So What?
That's like me hitting a home run in T-ball. My dad's like, "You think Barry Bonds is good?" Wait till you see my boy.
You think Mark McGrath is some shit.
Wait till you see my boy.
Mark McGuire, rather.
Mark McGrath, Bloodbath McGrath. Fucking Wild West. Oh, God.
Or Sugar Ray.
Bloodbath McGrath. Oh, Jesus Christ.
You think Mark McGuire or Barry Bonds is some shit. Wait until you see my boy.
My boy went 2 for 3, batting .333 at the T-ball game. He's the next big thing.
But, yeah, for as far as it goes, I mean, to an average music listener, I think they would enjoy this album. I think they really would.
Butt rock. Radio friendly butt rock.
Radio friendly, commercial butt rock.
Butt rock.
Okay. I mean, I hate to say it, but it is what it is.
So it's not groundbreaking.
Not groundbreaking. I hate to go against...
I'm going to say this, too, for all the listeners. You having an average liking to this album would say to somebody in my position, probably wouldn't like it at all. Because you're like, you find any reason to like it. So if it gives you, if you give, but I'm saying just anything related. If you'll like listen to an album and it's isolated tracks, vocals isolation. You'll look up the history of what Eddie Van Halen was eating that week before recording, and like, I eat that same thing. So
exactly, you got
know. So you find something. So if you find this to be average,
it's average.
God damn.
It's not groundbreaking.
I'll have to listen to it because
it's not horrible,
I need to know.
But it's not groundbreaking.
Yeah, but
it's average at best.
Okay.
I'd say if I were to give it a rating out of 10, I would have to give it somewhere like a 6 out of 10.
So it's listenable, but I usually say anything over a 5 is like listenable.
It's listenable.
Make your own opinion type.
Yeah. It's listenable. There's a couple interesting songs on it. The musicianship is great considering the fact that he played everything and he did everything himself. Mm-hmm. That's a big selling point for me because it's like, well, this dude fucking did everything. It's essentially him.
Yeah.
So that's a big selling point. But as far as it goes,
so you've like done solo musician stuff, so you know it's not, and especially with the availability of technology that he has. I mean,
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's average. It's worth a listen, but don't go in expecting like super.
I think that's the hardest part.
Shit.
Yeah, that's the hardest part.
I mean, sucks. I have heard though. I read a Guitar World interview that he actually used Eddie Van Halen's Frankenstein on a couple songs. So there's a little of a redeeming quality there.
Just because you used Eddie Van Halen's guitar.
On this day in music history.
On this day in music history, August 2nd, 1962, Bob Dylan makes his name change official, legally saying goodbye to his birth name.
Robert Zimmerman.
Was Dylan like his middle name or something? Or
I never even really looked into that. I didn't even know this was a legal name change. I thought that was always his stage name.
Yeah.
I never actually knew he legally changed it to Bob Dylan.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
So I would call him like Robert Zimmerman as like, you know.
Gonna go see the Robert Zimmerman show
calling
tonight.
Like 50 Cent Curtis Jackson type thing. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Or like
to be a hipster about it. Little did I know I was
Christopher Wallace. We're going to see the Christopher Wallace show tonight.
I was not being politically correct, apparently, because he legally changed it.
Yeah.
In 1962. Wow, so it was like legit. Long time ago.
Yeah.
1971, now down to a trio and Driven by Fighting. Creedence Clearwater Revival, CCR, embark on their last U.S. tour gig at Tulsa, Oklahoma Assembly Center. I don't fucking remember that show. 1971 was their last show?
No, they were starting their last tour. That was the first show on the tour.
Yeah, but I'm saying that was like their last like tour setup. They started in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Wow. In 1971, I didn't realize they broke up that early.
Yeah, well, I mean,
because then obviously Fogerty went on to do his fucking solo shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
71. That's so weird though, because I don't know. I got, well, it makes sense. It has to make sense now, but like I guess like in theory it kind of makes sense because Creedence didn't really release anything.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying like they were a huge 60s band. I didn't realize they didn't make it through the 70s. I think just because I'm thinking of John Fogerty and like what he accomplished, and then obviously all the mass population they got with like their songs being used in so many different things that I'm like, wow, okay, this is a band that died in the 70s. I didn't realize it's 71.
Yeah, exactly.
That's early as fuck for CCR. Yeah, literally.
Staying in the 70s here, 1973, Papa John Phillips of the Mamas and the Papas files a suit against his former label Dunhill, alleging $60 million in unpaid royalties. It's a lot of fucking money for 1973.
Especially 1973.
What would that equal to now? Like 200 million?
I'm gonna look this up while you talk because I need to know.
Yeah. I don't, honest to God, like I would love to be able to rap on the Mamas and the Papas, but I don't really know much about them. I think they were all fucking drug addicts, I think, at one point or another. And the one had a heart attack. The woman had, or Mama Cass, I think that's her name. Yeah, I think she had a heart attack. That's really all I know about the Mamas and the Papas, but I hope this is enough time to, kind of segue here into...
Was it 60 million?
60 million.
Really? Let's see. 60 million in 2021 is equivalent to $367 million, $156,756.76. So basically round down $367 million.
That's insane.
A lot of fucking money.
That's a lot.
It's a 511.9% inflation rate.
Wow.
Yep. That's my math today. Thank you, inflation calculator.
You've now been mathed here on RATMP.
Yeah, for all those who want to know, if you're ever watching a movie, this is a thing I do. When some guys like in 1952, like, we need to come up $20 to pay the rent. And I'm like, oh, well, that's like, doesn't seem like shit. But I do the inflation calculator. Like, oh shit, it's actually like $600 during a really troubling time, you know? So inflation calculator on Google, telling you, check it out. Going forward 2 years, the Eagles, 1975. One of these nights, they're hit number one in the U.S. in 75. So this song, right? This is the thing with the Eagles. Their greatest hits is like their best selling, like, and one of the best selling albums of all time.
Yeah.
I was like watching this thing on, the channel Access.
Yeah.
Like, or is it, no, Access. Access. I was watching them like do a live performance and like everybody was there. They were a little bit older, but Walsh was there. And I'm like thinking about their live album because they have that album, the Eagles Live.
Yeah.
This song I only like on that album. I think the Eagles were, and it's crazy that their greatest hits becomes the best-selling album for one time and another because it's interchangeable with Thriller, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's always like kind of like wishy-washy, but that Eagles Live album just makes this song. I think the Eagles is a very overrated, underrated band. Like people hate on them for how overrated they are, but then if you really listen to like their live stuff, it's so fucking good, man. It is good.
I think I sent you the video. I may have seen it on, or I definitely seen it on Facebook. I'm pretty sure I sent it to you with them like warming up backstage singing.
Yeah.
Like incredible.
They're great musicians, man. All
Fucking
of them.
nuts.
Very talented. That's probably one of the best vocal compilation of
And I'm mad we didn't
talents.
bring them up last season when we talked about vocal
I thought
harmonies.
we did, dude.
I think we skimmed past them because I was so dick
I'm
hard
pretty
about
sure
fucking
because we
Def
talked
Leppard
about
at
like
the time.
Don Henley and like really try to mention we couldn't. I maybe I made this up in my head, but I swore we talked about.
We do
them.
so many episodes.
Yeah, it sucks that I can't remember because that's the thing I always bring back to the Eagles. Like I'll hate on the Beatles all day.
Yeah.
I can't find a reason to think that they deserve the amount of credit that they do in terms of musicianship.
Yep.
But the Eagles get just as much hate and being overrated. But it's funny, most people that hate on this band, first thing they go to is Hotel California, which is like, okay.
Yeah.
That's like when I hated on Nirvana for a period of time, but all I could really stand by was like Smells Like Teen Spirit and In Bloom.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so yeah, the Eagles live album, this song, probably the best version of it. But yeah, great song, 1975.
Nice.
Great stuff.
Jumping way forward here to 1998, speaking of overrated, the Beatles are named favorite recording artist of all time in a poll conducted by the UK music magazine Mojo, beating out Elvis, Frank Sinatra, Queen, and Elton John in that order.
So the order, they beat out Elvis is second, Sinatra third, Queen fourth, Elton John fifth. I mean, that makes sense in terms of what we know about all these artists. And
Yeah, average music listener, it makes sense.
because even Frank Sinatra is a very unique voice. Like I know a lot of people that don't like Frank Sinatra, and I like Frank Sinatra, but not like most people that like him. Same thing with Elvis. Like I can really dig Elvis, but I don't like him how some people like him.
Dude, my grandmother's like stupid crazy
I have friends
about
that are
Elvis.
like 100% obsessed. My grandfather growing up, 100% obsessed. He had that fucking clock with the legs.
Yep.
Like, and I like that. I like the style of Elvis, but even just like all these artists, like honestly, Freddie Mercury and Elton John, Queen, Elton John, like honestly, I would find them as like better talents overall at the end because of just what they could accomplish in terms of a band, is what they were accomplishing as a writing ability. With the mass appeal, but this one sucks because the Beatles just will always.
Speaking of the Beatles, did you see the new miniseries that's going to be happening with Paul McCartney and Rick Rubin?
Yes.
And the first episode came out, I think, or someone had seen it because I saw somebody post about it online, and they're like, you could just see how much Rick Rubin is inspired by Paul McCartney. And I'm like, you mean the guy that's trying to be Paul McCartney?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I don't know if I really believe that conspiracy theory on that one.
It's possible though.
It's possible. I mean, there's a lot of things that would make sense about it if it were in fact true. But I mean, I didn't know Paul McCartney beforehand, before the car accident that apparently killed him in 1966.
You don't want to talk about this out loud. Might be vans outside your
Yeah.
door by the time this conversation.
He's catching on.
Yeah, they're listening as we speak. Flash forwarding all the way to 2019 with a show in Hanover, Germany on the 246th date of his Divide tour. Ed Sheeran breaks the record for highest grossing tour, surpassing, wow, Jesus Christ, $735.3 million and a half earned on their 2009
That U2 earned.
Oh, that U2. Oh, that's what U2 earned? $735.3 million. So they
surpassing
surpassed that. Okay,
U2's.
that's what U2 earned between 2009 2011. Their 360 tour. They did just 110 shows. Sheeran finishes the tour August 26th with a final tally of $775.6 million.
However, he did have to play more than twice the amount of shows to break that.
I mean,
which is like crazy to think about that.
I mean, but U2 was just like I'm not a huge U2 fan, but they fucking
have a fan base.
They're a band. They're like a very smart band.
Mm-hmm.
They really fucking did what every musician hopes to do.
You know what's even crazier though is that Ed Sheeran was on a fucking tour for 246 days. Like you're talking basically almost a full year.
Yeah.
Like just about a full year this dude's been touring.
You know what's lucky though, and I think at the end of the day, I think about genres of music and what you choose to play and then what it does to you physically when you have to perform it.
Yeah.
Ed Sheeran plays a style of music where, honestly, 246 days out of a year, it's probably fun. It's like you're sitting there basically playing guitar in front of your friends most of the time. You know, it's not like he's up there fucking like Pete Sandoval from Morbid Angel, blast beats at fucking 100 BPMs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Like, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I always think about that in terms of the style of music, the musicianship, especially your vocal abilities. Like fucking Axl Rose, his voice. How long are you keeping that up for, sir?
Yeah.
Obviously not that long. Let's talk about Motley Crue. What the fuck happened?
Let's talk about him.
Yeah, like
he had to stop a show like in the middle. He stopped singing in the middle of the show and just like, I'm done.
Because that's the thing. Ed Sheeran's voice is his voice, you know? Like a lot of these musicians, some of them are very lucky that they just have that gift where they're not putting some strain onto themselves.
Just like Sammy Hagar. I mean, I hate to keep... dude, it's just hard because, like...
I get it. I get
like,
what you're...
him at his age, dude, and the amount... I mean, granted, he doesn't smoke or nothing, but... Like, he drinks like a motherfucker, dude.
Yeah.
And he drinks tequila nonetheless. And he's still able to sing up to the abilities that he's always been.
But that was like, too, like Paul Rogers from Bad Company. Mm-hmm. Like, when I saw him live, it was literally the same voice, just on a fucking way older person's body.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird.
Brian Johnson's the same way, too.
Brian Johnson is the same way.
Jerry Cantrell's the same way.
Now, speaking of tours... I want to talk about something that's quite relevant that'll bring us into what we're going to discuss here today. So, Kanye West, right, did this crazy thing. This is now a couple weeks since it surpassed what happened, but on July 23rd, Kanye West is releasing a new album. It's simply titled Donda. It's named after his late mother.
Yeah.
July 23rd was the speculative release date. This motherfucker bought out an arena, sold it out, right? To a crowd and basically played the album in front of the crowd on the day that it was supposed to be released.
He's got balls.
So obviously everybody had it in their fucking head of what the fuck just happened. Like, is that the release of the album? Now, the album is speculated released shortly this week, apparently in August. But it was interesting because there were several leaks of music that was released by Kanye in this time. Now, we know Kanye has kind of been in a weird fucking state when it terms of music, personality-wise. Yeah, I'm going to be generous about it because what I heard from the leak audio of the songs that were played during this time, you're getting what I would consider a comeback in just speculative terms because Kanye had some great shit early on, man.
Yeah, he did.
He really fucking did. And he's a very good lyricist. He's very fucking smart in his abilities. You know, his voice. He's just a very talented rapper. And
he has a very good idea of where he wants to be and what he's going to be.
Yeah, and he's a clever lyricist. Like, he was very good. I remember hearing Through the Wire when I was a fucking kid, man. And like it just was good. And now like everything that's happened, I think you're gonna get that like that everyone's saying like that comeback from like the post Kardashian relationship, right?
Yeah.
Get that like raw energy about it. But so yeah, I wanted to say, you know, because it's very often and sometimes it doesn't happen as well, but comeback albums.
Yes.
You know, like bands that may have lost an intricate member, bands that, you know, replaced a member. Now, we've done something similar to this in bands that succeeded afterwards, but we'll just talk about that first album after a major shift or hiatus of a band.
Do you want to start? You want me to start?
You can start.
Probably one of the best that comes to my mind is Black Gives Way to Blue.
Alice in Chains.
Now, here's the thing. The Alice in Chains deal for me is I got into them obviously after Lane had passed, and like obviously you know Man in the Box or Them Bones, but like I never dove into their catalog obviously because I was like fucking, I don't know, when did he die? 02? I was 10 when he died. So obviously I didn't have the mental capacity or the discipline to be able to look up and find out about Alice in Chains, and plus the limitations of the internet at that point in time.
Yeah, unless you wanted to give your computer AIDS with LimeWire.
Exactly.
Very limited, yep.
No, I was giving it AIDS with fucking like downloading Ludacris or something.
Yep.
Something stupid.
Linkin Park Numb.
Yeah. Numb MP3 XX 2407.
It's not even Numb, it's fucking...
It's a Soulja Boy song.
Yeah. It's fucking Young Jock.
Yeah, right.
It's going down.
It's going down. But Black Gives Way to Blue gets a lot of hate just because it's the first album without Lane. But I mean, at the end of the day, William Duvall in his own right is a very good lyricist. He's a very good vocalist. He's just not Lane, and it's unfortunate that people lump him into like this negative side of Alice in Chains.
Do you think though, because his voice is like reminiscent of it, like it's kind of like the harmony between him and Jerry are almost similar?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna get crucified here by the fucking Alice in Chains purists on the fucking internet, but I feel like,
don't say it,
with Lane, the harmonies.
Don't say it.
Hold on, hear me out on this one.
And I think I know where you're going.
The harmonies were amazing, and the harmonies were different, and they weren't like super musical, but they worked. Where actually, hold on. Here's what I'm trying to get at. Jerry and William Duvall are like on paper, like good harmonies, right? Lane and Jerry on paper aren't good harmonies, but in listening, they work. With William Duvall, it's like the difference between like a, I don't know, like white bread and like a fucking like rye loaf with like cinnamon raisin and like oatmeal on top. You know what I mean?
I feel like I'm high listening to this conversation.
What? All right, so the William Duvall and Jerry Cantrell harmonies are very straightforward.
Yes.
And it's easy to
But
comprehend.
here's the thing,
and
this
easy
is
to
why I'm
understand.
going to think that's the case, though. With Lane, Alice in Chains, vocally, it was driven by Lane.
Yes.
So Cantrell was almost more of the supporting cast to Lane's vocal ability. Whereas now, with Duvall in there,
Jerry's
it's more of a
front and center.
Jerry-driven band where you're
Yes.
just adding someone to harmonize and have smaller parts.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's probably why? Because they got a vocalist that's fitting more towards Jerry as opposed to Jerry trying to
that's
mesh
right.
with...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like trying to go about it in a fucked up way to try to
I don't
explain
know
what
where
I
white
mean.
bread and fucking rye loaf with raisins. I don't know what the fuck just happened there.
No, yeah, pretty much. I mean,
Can you put some like lucid background behind that? Like the fucking screen starts getting all like smoky and wavy, and I'm just sitting here like, what the fuck is happening?
yeah, I just feel like their harmonies are very straightforward, and it's easy to comprehend and easy to understand.
Yeah.
You don't need to be like a music fucking genius to figure out why their harmonies work. I pretty much came to this conclusion while watching Rick Beato's channel, the dude that kind of looks like Michael, my father-in-law. He does like what makes this song great, and like he, breaks down songs like, instrument by instrument.
Like
and,
do like a music theory session as opposed to just
and where it's like how you play like a power chord on a guitar.
Yeah.
Like that's Jerry and William Duvall. Where you would have like
literally
a
like the
fucking,
matching notes to be able to
Exactly.
complement each other. Okay.
and with Lane, it's like how
an
you
unorthodox chord, but it works. It's just
you'd
not,
play like a diminished, fucking suspended,
Okay.
7 fucking goofy shit that like on paper is kind of like, what the fuck is this even happening? And like it like sounds fucked up if you play it on like any other instrument.
True.
But with vocals it works.
True.
Like that's what I'm trying to get at.
I think the one thing about it is because you can hear it a lot in the live shows because I'm a big just live music person.
Dude, I see them live every time they come.
This like the thing about the Lane era though was that live at the Moore where they did the entire Facelift album, the black and white video of him, and you're hearing them both in their prime. I think you also have to take into account of like Lane's lifestyle and like it was 50-50 when it was hitting, but when they were on point, man, that harmony ability between the two of them is like fucking haunting, man. It is like there's nothing like that.
Alice in Chains Unplugged.
But
to this day,
I've been listening to that a lot lately because I keep seeing posts about it from this page I follow.
Yeah,
on Instagram. And dude, it's just I'm still not ready to put it above Nirvana's, and it's not
it's
even
working. It's working its way though.
It's like it's definitely surpassed. Like, because I used to even be on edge a little bit about like STP and Pearl Jam.
Yeah,
But it's
STP's
like,
was good.
They're both, and Pearl Jam's is great too, even though they never released it. But the Black Gives Way to Blue era, when they started to move into that, it sucks because it's almost two separate bands in my opinion. But it is an album of them trying to stay relevant, continue this band, play the shows, play the songs you remember. And I'm gonna tell you right now, Duvall, when he does Lane era music, it's fucking good, man.
Yeah,
like you're obviously missing that important piece, but that album,
he's not as fucking he's not as raw.
Yeah, but he's
One
also
Duvall's
not
more refined of
exactly.
a vocalist.
But you still have a feel. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like that's what sucks.
Yep.
Like a lot of these bands will rediscover themselves, and I think the Black Gives Way to Blue album was a great step in going that route because they didn't try to redo what they were doing.
Yeah.
They took the same, basic ingredients of what Alice in Chains is and knew they were going to work with what they had and not try to put themselves as like, all right, we're going to continue this the same way we've been. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because some bands will really try to like keep the same exact formula and fit in somebody different and think they're just going to continue.
Well, what I feel like ultimately killed, well, I don't think anything really killed this album, but what put a bad taste in people's mouth is they remember Alice in Chains from the self-titled album and how fucking raw and edgy fucking sludgy that album was.
I think
and then it goes to this like super commercialized album.
But I think that's what's funny is because I think that band was more dictated by the like atmosphere of the band. Because if you listen to Facelift, to Dirt, and then if you add the EPs obviously between that period, and then you get to the self-title, you like can literally hear Lane deteriorating in those albums.
Yeah,
like dude, Dirt is fucking depressing, man. And then the self-title.
We've talked about the self-titled at length before, but like I feel like self-titled, they had to put something out, and that was literally the best they could do at that point. And it's good. In time. I
like it too, but it's funny because I'll talk to people that are not a fan of like Alice in Chains, and the first thing they're familiar with is the Lane era, obviously. Like, dude, it sounds like you're like listening to Quicksand, like it's and I'm like, that's the point. Yeah, I like it. It's fucking self-loathing, sad, haunting, great music.
But that's what made all that dark shit great.
But that is funny because then Black Gives Way to Blue. But they still had some, like I said, they still had some of that basic Alice in Chains feel to it.
Yeah. They definitely had an Alice in Chains feel, but it was
Your
definitely
Decision
more...
is on there, right?
Yeah.
Your Decision immediately had that feel because the music video too. Remember, it's like that weird brothel where they're like killing people, basically. But that dun, 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 dun,
well, the title track off that album is fucking really like it's got giving my fucking like hair stand up my arms talking about it. Yeah,
fucking Black.
It's literally just Jerry with a piano.
Yeah.
And dude, like that title track is fucking amazing.
That's what I'm saying. It is a great rediscovery of the band. I think Black Gives Way to Blue is definitely a solid comeback effort. Because again, Halloween 3 context. Take it out of Alice in Chains, listen to it as an album, have no backing comparison. It's fucking great.
Yep.
It is a good album.
Hands down.
Mine, I'm going to do this one first before we get into one that we'll both jump in on. But this one we also both can talk about. American Psycho.
Oh, yeah.
By the Misfits. So now, this is where I'm finally going to get my opportunity to talk about where I stand in this. So we have to understand something. 1983, Earth AD Wolf's Blood's released. Shortly before American Psycho released in 97, Static Age was finally released in 96. Static Age is technically the first recorded full-length album by the Misfits, but the last released one under the Danzig era because it took a while and all this other shit. But then 97 rolls around, the band reforms. You got Chud on drums, you got Michael Graves now on vocals, still with Wolfgang, as well as Jerry Only. Now, the Misfits in this era constantly catch shit because it's not Danzig era. Mm-hmm. Now, I know you are more of a fan of those Graves album era than the Danzig era, where I'm more of a fan of the Danzig era, with probably Static Age being my favorite, Earth AD being close second, right next to Walk Among Us. But the Graves stuff, man, was fucking great.
It was.
And this is another moment where it's like, you want to talk about comeback album, you just had that huge hiatus, huge feud. Obviously, Graves goes through the same shit later, and you get the fucking Jerry Only band, because that is an era of the Misfits. I do not consider the Misfits.
No.
But this I can. I think Americans
playing Halloween.
Yeah, literally. Like, we just need places to play fucking shows and continue to sell our products.
I ran out of money.
Literally, that's all it was. But American Psycho, man, so many fucking good songs, front to back. The way it opens with, the Abominable Mr. Phoebes, right into the title track. Dig Up Her Bones is obviously on it. Speak of the Devil, The Shining, Don't Open Till Doomsday. I mean, there's so many good fucking songs on this album. And when I think of like comeback albums, like you're making a huge, major fucking change. Like you're replacing the entire vocalist who's leading this band. And not only in terms of that, but production.
Oh, dude, it was like night and day.
Night and day. But it's also just the song structure itself. Like, it was that same feel, like those sing-along moments. Because that's the thing with me and the Misfits. Like, the Misfits, for me, are so important in my life because of, like, how I listen to them. Yeah. Being drunk with my friends instead of listening to, like, Wanted Dead or Alive by Bon Jovi, we were listening to, like, Astro Zombies by the Misfits. Like, and there's just so many sing-along moments. But Graves era Misfits, that first album, American Psycho, I think is honestly a very underrated comeback album because of what happens.
I think it's an underrated album, period. I think it's an extremely underrated album.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Famous Monsters more, but
so do I.
I feel like American Psycho does not get the accolades it deserves.
I think because of the Danzig era, like there was that huge feud and like, this is not the real Misfits.
Exactly. It's so stupid.
Like, take that out of context. It's a good fucking album.
Dude, honestly, if it didn't have the Misfits moniker,
if they were just a punk
or moniker.
Just like Blitzkid. Like the band Blitzkid, the fucking horror punk band. If they were just a separate band and this is what was released,
100%.
Right up there.
It could literally be... I honestly think that American Psycho could be released today.
And still probably be on the radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dig Up Her Bones 100% would be on the radio. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
I remember the first time I heard that song, I was like, oh my God.
The first Misfits song I ever heard was Attitude off of Static Age.
Okay.
So, and this was the LimeWire era. Someone showed me the Misfits. I think someone was talking about them as a band and had the shirt on, so I wanted to be cool and like, I actually know this band. I'm not just wearing their shirts. So I
named 3 of their songs.
Exactly. So I wanted to listen to them before I made the investment in such a product.
Yeah.
I had standards. So I downloaded.
You're such a Misfits fan.
Yeah, I downloaded, mp3.attitude. Whatever. So I listened to that and it was good. I enjoyed it. But then the very next song I downloaded was Dig Up Her Bones. Do you know what that was like for a fucking kid to hear Attitude and then Dig Up Her Bones and be like,
I didn't even think it was
how is the same fucking band? So now I feel like LimeWire's giving me the old 52 skidoo on me. I don't even know who I'm listening to at this point. It was like Death. When I listened to Scream Bloody Gore and Sound of Perseverance.
Yeah.
You have no way of
wasn't
validating.
Even the same band.
I have no way of validating if
literally
this is true.
Wasn't the same band.
No, like no way to validate if this is true or not. But anyway, that was the second song I heard is Dig Up Her Bones. It wasn't until later when I got older where I got into like albums. Like I wanted to listen to albums. But American Psycho was on repeat when I had my Dodge Charger and I had all the burned CDs and the fucking book, the old school method. But that album was on fucking repeat constantly because it's just a good driving album. It's a good just listening album. It's a good when you're out drunk with your friends album.
It's just
good.
It's just a good album.
Very good.
Very good album.
That's my first choice.
Nice. Another one here is something we can talk about at length. Back in Black.
Arguably the most commercialized and successful comeback album of all
ever.
time.
literally of all time.
I hate on AC/DC era Brian Johnson, but this is the same thing with U2 and their shit was selling the way they did. This album is fucking genius for what they were able to do.
Well,
100%.
Honestly, what I think with this album completely doesn't turn off for you is the fact that even in, death, Bon Scott had a huge part in this album. And most of the shit was written while he was still alive.
Yes.
So it still had that old school fucking AC/DC feel, just with the new guy singing.
That's how I feel like with the album I'm going to bring up next, but talking about this one, that's exactly it. I think the instrumental work on this entire album, the feel to the album, is what I like about AC/DC. Again, it's just how I am with certain vocalists. It's just that was that one ingredient that pushed them over the edge. You know what I mean?
He had the attitude. He had the grit.
Yeah, like the Paul Di'Anno versus Bruce Maiden.
Exactly.
It's like you have more of a polished hard rock atmosphere as opposed to like this guy will fucking beat me up in the parking lot if I say something attitude.
Yeah,
you know
pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, I think all those dudes are like fucking like 4 foot, like 11. So I don't think you have much of a problem with Bon Scott.
Well, I'm 5'2", so
you're still towering over
like
the dudes in AC/DC. I think legal midget's like 4'11".
I have to wear a booster seat when I drive my car by law.
But back to Back in Black. We've said it on this show a few times.
It's a hit machine.
Yeah, it's just
fucking hit machine.
It's the quintessential blueprint for American or for rock
and roll.
Yeah, I mean, it's a blueprint.
That's the thing. I think because
you want to write good music, listen to Back in Black.
I think it's funny because that was the first. I don't want to say the first CD I owned because Eminem Show was the first CD I ever owned. But this album was probably that first album where I felt like almost like Dark Side of the Moon. Just that's one of those albums that like you have to have. That was my first have to have album. And I remember it was the fold out one, so it wasn't even like the real jewel case one.
Oh yeah.
My stepmom had it, but it was old and it was like real fucking crackling. And I remember she gave it to me, and like that is one of those albums you can literally put on and like not even realize you listen to the whole thing because it just flows so quick, so smooth, and there's not a skippable track on there.
No.
There really isn't. And I think the thing about that album is also bearing in mind of where they were coming from, like on the high, like absolute like peak of commercial success.
Yeah.
And their fucking singer dies.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? How hard that is for a band to just turn right around and fucking put out something, let alone what Back in Black turned out to be.
Oh my God.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah. Could you imagine?
Unbelievable album. Yeah, that's probably got to be the best one overall, though.
It would be like if I died and this podcast hit #1 on iTunes.
Immediately.
Yeah.
That would suck really bad. I would give royalties to your wife, no problem.
That would really suck.
That would really suck really bad.
Like we outperformed
But then it's like,
Joe Rogan.
what does it say about you? Like you died and then it became #1. Were you the fucking toxic ingredient? That would suck even worse.
Yeah, was I holding
I'd be
it
at
back?
your eulogy being like, if it wasn't for Bill, I wouldn't be as successful as I am today. Thanks for dying, basically.
Thanks for kicking the bucket, asshole.
So before, I just want to mention 2 quick ones. One that we'll talk on briefly. Another one that I think the last one too. But the one I want to talk about first is Californication by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So 95, One Hot Minute came out. Dave Navarro was playing guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Frusciante obviously went on his hiatus, everything like that. But then 99 rolls around right on the peak of the 2000s movement and what was about to happen. And Red Hot Chili Peppers dropped Californication.
Yeah.
And that album was perfect because you got to see what they were missing in John Frusciante. Because when we talked about top guitarists, I had him up there as like absolutely, probably, definitely my top 5.
Yeah.
Because he's just... You think about guitars, you think about musicians. When you had that album specifically, that's literally Red Hot Chili Peppers. That is like a brand of music that you can only get from this band.
That's true.
You know, and the One Hot Minute era with Dave, I mean, there's some good stuff on there, but dude, I mean...
I think Dave Navarro's a douche.
I agree. And for that moment that he was in the Red Hot Chili Peppers to be able to carry them through for a period of time.
Yeah.
Like I said, it made it that much more important that when John came back into the band... You're like, thank fucking God. It was like having a wicked fucking hangover and the ibuprofen just worked.
Yeah, right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like you're just praying to God something changes here. And then John Frusciante comes in with his 800 milligrams of Advil and just, boom. RHCP's ready to go.
That's so funny.
What else you got?
Well, I have my last one here. so we can kind of roll it into the part 2 of this topic. So do you want to do another one first before I jump?
I was going to say Injustice for All.
Well,
probably the last one because
what's left? What else can we
have to bring it up?
Injustice for All?
We're not even going to mention the band. Not even going to mention the band.
Not even say it.
Then from now on, that's going to be the new thing. We'll talk about them
and not say the
name.
And
whatever it's about. Yeah. So they dropped Injustice for All right after, shortly after Cliff Burton died. Newstead joins the band. Yep. Now, this is where we argue all the time because me and you differ on how we feel about them.
Yeah.
Right? We know that there's an album that comes after this with a title, just call it the Black Album.
Yeah.
Injustice
the Snake
for All,
album.
The Snake Album. But Injustice for All for them at this period in time, hitting commercialized success with Master and having to turn around. Like, this is the thing. It's not you're losing your singer, but you can tell Cliff was an absolute quintessential part of this band.
Yeah, and it's evident
in terms of
in the
chemistry,
later music.
in terms of the abilities. Like, Cliff was such an integral part. Like, most bands could lose a fucking bassist. Not to be crass about it, but most bands could lose a fucking bassist and be whatever.
Shit, how many did Death have?
Death changed their whole entire fucking organization. Like they were selling for draft picks at the end of every fucking album. Like, oh, done. You're at the peak of your career. You gotta go. Like, you could fucking Steve DiGiorgio on there. It was one of the most talented bassists. You had him on for 2 albums. I'm like, whatever. I'm done.
Yeah.
Whatever. You can't get better than that, sir. What are you doing? But Injustice for All, I think Injustice for All is probably my personal favorite comeback album in terms of how good it was in flowing of the discography, as well as the change that needed to happen as a result.
I can dig that.
I absolutely think that is. And I know what yours is going to be.
Yeah.
So
at the end of last season, we had discussed, well, because I knew Steve was going to fuck me and give me a Doors album. That
not literally.
Yeah, he's not, it's figuratively.
Yeah, we're on camera now.
I knew he was going to give me a Doors album that I had to listen to.
100%.
So I was like, you know what I'm going to do? Fuck it. He's listening to a Van Hagar album.
So the best thing about this, to mention before you say this, I actually owned it on vinyl. I probably have mentioned this before.
Yeah.
But I owned it on vinyl and was going to give it to you. Should have fucking known better.
I already had it.
Yep.
So the album that I'm talking about is 5150, obviously from Van Halen. The reason it's a comeback album is because they obviously had their pretty public split with David Lee Roth, and this was the first album that the band was going to put out without him, and it wound up being a commercial and musical success. I think it's a great comeback album. It's funny too because not only was it a comeback album for the band, but it was also like the start of something completely different.
Yeah.
I mean, and at that point, whether or not anyone wants to call it Van Halen or not is completely up to judgment. But as far as a comeback album goes, I mean, it's one of the better ones.
So let's roll this right into it then.
So we're going to give you guys reviews. I listened to Strange Days by The Doors, and you listened to
5150 by Van Halen.
So what do you want to do? Do you want to go track by track and we'll just kind of talk
Let's
about
start
our
opening
notes?
tracks?
Do you want to go? Then do you want me to go?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Then you can go. But yeah, because I had a re-listen. It was funny. It was very ironic that I went to have a re-listen. Going to be the 4th time, honestly. Twice I listened to it through a digital copy, and twice I listened. Well, this was the thing I was trying to really wrap my head around. I will say this about the album, and this is the same way I feel about Pantera. Far Beyond Driven is not my favorite album, but I can tell it's Dimebag's most ferocious effort in terms of his instrumental quality.
Okay.
5150 for me, when I listened to just the instrumental work and how much effort, Eddie was putting into this compared to what he was doing at the end of the Roth era, it was like a rediscovering of how fucking good I am at guitar.
Yeah.
Because he was very fucking good on it. So the first song, Good Enough, that song, honestly, that was it was going to give you a tempo for the whole fucking thing. And me with an intro track, I don't need that song to be great, but I can tell you this. Mostly every single song that I'll listen to that's an intro track to a good album, I will love that song. And Good Enough is honestly probably my second favorite song on the entire album.
Really?
And it's funny because it's funny. Like, so I'm going to skip down though, because obviously Dreams is like, I can't tell you how many fucking times I've heard that song, didn't realize it. So I actually wrote my notes. It's an aerobics theme song. I feel like it's total 80s. It has a jump feel to it. You know what I mean? It's very 80s. But that first song, Good Enough, I never heard that song.
Yeah.
I never heard that song. And when literally the way it starts the album, I think because it was fresh and nobody tried to... everyone who tried to force this album down my throat either shoved Summer Nights at me or Dreams, right? But Summer Nights... I'm going to skip around too, because Summer Nights is honestly my favorite song off the album.
Word.
I think it is my favorite song off the album.
Damn right it is.
It's darker. It's mid-tempo. It's slower.
And that riff is just so badass.
Very fucking good, man. Yeah. And like, here's the thing though, because also bear in mind the tracks before Dreams, like Get Up, I immediately put down Hot for Teacher. The way the drums come in the intro, like that speed feel to it. Everything that was happening in this album, like the only problem was Sammy's vocals. It takes a while for it to fucking really come on to you. And it sucks because it didn't really happen until the last track on Inside, where I was listening to a song like, this is Sammy Hagar, Van Halen. Every other song, I think because Eddie was so on point, it's almost like you were missing David Lee Roth. Like, why couldn't you have done this before? Like, what the fuck happened? Because
David Lee Roth didn't want that shit
I know,
to happen.
and it sucked, man. Summer Nights, absolutely good. I wrote down for Best of Both Worlds. I thought the chorus was, not bad. It's got that real sing-along style to it. It's very, catchy. Love Walks In. The only thing I put in my notes was Next. I put a little star, and I put Next. 5150, the self-title, I put its most casual track on the album.
I love that riff.
Yeah, nothing stood out to it, both good and bad. It was just like a calm... Like, I could have had that song in the background, and, nobody would stop to be offended. Nobody would stop to be like, what the fuck? This is great. It was, like, a very calm track, which is weird.
I really like the chorus of that song.
So do I. I put that on there.
The chorus is good.
Yeah, but the interesting thing about it was, because it's the second to last track on the album, which I found interesting, because a lot of bands in the 80s, that was your fourth track. That was your, round, cleanup hitter, basically, in the lineup.
It should have been released as a single off that album instead of Love Walks In.
Yeah, I don't understand how that was the single. There's literally every other track on here is much better.
Yeah.
Every other track.
Literally every song.
So when I put this in, highlights, I think Good Enough, this is, again, why I go back to albums. Good Enough starts the album out exactly what I was hoping to hear.
Yeah.
Right? Because again, Dreams was the song that was given to me. That is a very 80s fucking song. Bear in mind, it's released in 86, so we're peak 80s at this point. Yeah. So everything about the album, I basically came down to the census. I said the album needed serious digesting to find new appreciation, because I've heard it before.
Yeah. I
needed to find a real sense of listening to it for what I'm trying to listen for, which is Eddie's talents and where this band was going. I said, I will say my mind changed a bit, not a lot. But I don't think I'll ever find the appreciation for Hagar's vocals. I just don't think I'll do it. However, this is, and I said this about the Pantera thing, this is probably honestly my favorite work by Eddie in terms of guitar ability. I think of Van Halen 1, I think of Van Halen 2, I think of Before Women and Children First, and then I think about how the albums flow and the talents that he's showing. This album I immediately put onto thinking about Far Beyond Driven. Not my favorite fucking album, but if you want to show somebody how good that his fucking work is, this is the album that I would probably... I mean, because Van Halen 1 stands out because of Eruption. You really just get to see that. So I think there's obviously every other album with the Roth era I find more appreciation for, I find more enjoyable. But just the entire album, it has a great flow to it. Every song, you really can hear his talents and guitar ability. There are no skippable tracks if you want to listen to isolated instrumentals. I mean, obviously, there is one skippable track on this album.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, man, what I put, because I did this on a 100 scale, so I could be a little more precise. I gave it a 66 out of 100.
Okay.
Like I said, anything over 50 for me in this respect, it's listenable. Make your own opinion. Because honestly, before I listened to it like this, I wouldn't have even counted to be a listen. But I honestly found a little bit more of respect for it just because of how talented Eddie is and what he's able to produce, what the entire band does. And Sammy Hagar, honestly, this time around, it didn't piss me off
Yeah.
Like Sammy Hagar used to piss me off, his voice, but this was like more enjoyable because I was listening to it with a purpose. So I was like finding a reason to like it.
Yeah.
Because that's how I am. Like I'm
You
not
don't
gonna
want to hate
I'm not just
it.
gonna hate something because I don't like it. Like and told not to like it and conditioned not to like. I'll find a reason to like something if it's good.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, honestly, it was kind of surprising because the way the album does run, you can listen to it, not even realize you listen to it. It's a very quick listen.
Yeah.
It's smooth, and like I said, overall,
and the production was great on it.
yeah, very good. Yeah, everything about it was very balanced. I found it averagely enjoyable at best, as you could say.
Well, I'm moving on here to this Doors album, Strange Days. The first track, Strange Days, I had to put down there. Bass was awesome. Really cool bass line. It was the only thing I could really say about the song.
It's pretty cool, though.
What I think, all right, so on all these tracks here, the one thing that is similar that I didn't write down on every track is I don't like Jim Morrison. I don't like his vocal styling. I don't like his lyrics. I just don't like Jim Morrison. But I do like the instrumentals of the Doors. So instead of writing down there like Jim Morrison sucks, or like I don't like
That was
Jim
your
Morrison.
overall consensus.
Yeah, overall consensus, I feel like the Doors are extremely good band, but the whole thing of Jim Morrison kind of really fucking it's what does it for me. I mean, that's the thing too. Like I don't like Danzig as much as you do. I mean, I enjoy Danzig, but like I would go.
It's like but it's the same thing with like Elvis and Sinatra. I think
Exactly.
Like you find and like Sammy Hagar.
Yep.
I think that's a lot of people though, with a lot of bands that they listen to, and especially with like talents that are recognized, like Elvis, Jim Morrison, Freddie Mercury. It's like acquired. It's either acquired or it's you love them from the start.
Exactly.
Because if you don't listen to them and you didn't hear them at a time to really like grow on you, where you've already like older and it's just like hard for you to get into them, it's very difficult.
Exactly. So track 2, Your Lost Little Girl, guitar tone and riff was cool. Boring lyrics. I thought that the riff,
Lost little girl.
I thought the riff like reminded me of like Metallica.
Yeah. That.
Love Me Two Times, overplayed.
That is the
Keyboard solo was cool. My favorite song on the album, Unhappy Girl.
which is surprising.
Yeah, I think
me,
it's a cool song.
It is a very cool song, but to me, that's a very overlooked track. Most people that just goes way over.
Honestly,
Who
I never
cares?
would have listened to it if I didn't
Exactly.
listen to this album in depth.
Exactly.
Track 5, Horse Latitudes. The only thing I wrote down was joke.
Well, it's like an interlude, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Track 6, Moonlight Drive. I put down my second favorite song of this album. Track 7, People Are Strange. I put down overplayed. Track 8, My Eyes Have Seen You. I said I like the epicness of it. Best instrumentals on the album, period.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it had like the best like soundscapes, I guess. Is what yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's just like it was like the most like full like mood setting thing off that album. Track 9, I Can't See Your Face in My Mind. Cool instrument choices with slide guitar and like the blocks, like the timbales or whatever the fuck they're called. Like that was cool. And track 10, When the Music's Over, was my second least favorite song on the album. And I put down impressive how they were able to keep it together.
Motherfucker. Because you said your favorite instrumental song. I'm like, oh, I wonder how he feels about When the Music's Over. Now I fucking know. Dude, that song to me is fucking... Like, I'll listen to that, but like while I'm just laying in bed staring at the fucking ceiling. It's just so chill.
Like, it was like too long for me.
Well, that's like their version of The End off of the self-title. They had the 11-minute track on there. When the music... Now, here's the thing, though. Because I can, like, honestly get where you come from on all those songs, because that's typically what I hear when I show people the Doors that don't like the fucking Doors. But their live stuff, I think, is what put them over the edge for me.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think it'll change your mind, but it is something to definitely consider, especially...
Well, I can tell you, it has given me a newfound respect for the Doors.
There is, and honestly, I kind of went on a limb. I would have just recommended the can't speak, stroke. Was going to recommend the self-titled because that is their Master of Puppets recommendation. That's like, okay, this is good enough. This will get the job done. They'll have an understanding, and then we can branch on other things. But I took a risk because Strange Days is my personal favorite.
Okay.
Just like when we do our next monthly review, I have an album we'll discuss later that's also my personal favorite, but not going to be their best overall. So it'll be fun.
But, I mean, I
say we do the 100 scale.
If I have to give it an unbiased review... And just going to this, with not having a pre-distaste for the Doors, I'm probably going to have to give this album probably like 57 out of 100. Like, it's listenable. I'll never listen to it again.
Wow.
I mean, there was highlight stuff off of there. I understand why people love it. I understand why... the Doors are as revered as they are.
I think the general consensus for both of us, it was the vocals.
Yeah.
I think the vocals killed
honestly,
both
dude,
these
I think the Doors are fucking
taste.
amazing without Jim Morrison.
Well, you listen to the Doors albums without Jim Morrison, you might regret that fucking decision. Because they released some albums without it. I didn't put that in the comeback issue. You realize that. All right, cool. So, Bill, not a fan of Strange Days. Steve, averagely a fan of 5150, I guess. I think anything that breaks the 70 cusp, we can say fan.
Okay.
So we can do a slam. Like, what were we going to do?
Hit or shit.
Hit or shit? All right, so it
Hit
just stands for shit. Anything over a 70 makes it a hit. There you go.
So, yeah, I mean, you guys can make your own, opinions or decisions basically off of what we say. You don't have to listen to us. But
we appreciate that you do.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
So, I guess on that note, let's get into our suggestions for this week. Because I got one that's fucking, like, way off the fucking cuff.
Way off?
Way off. Like, I was on Spotify fucking around.
What is it, like armpit farts?
No. Like, I was driving around with the wife and the dog. And I was like, I want to listen to, like, boy bands. That's what I want to listen to tonight.
Oh, jeez.
So I put on like a playlist of like the best 90s boy bands, and I fucking came across this song that I remember hearing fucking like 20 years ago. And like it like clicked in my mind. Like almost that time where I heard fucking Super Heaven, and I was like, oh my God, I started singing the words.
Oh yeah, well yeah, Jar.
Yeah. So my suggestion for this week is the 1996 single from the band No Mercy, called Where Do You Go, off the album My Promise.
Wow.
When you hear it, because I'm going to play it for you, and you're going to go, oh my God, I remember this fucking song.
Okay, because there's another song where I had that too. We'll discuss it because it's not my choice of what I'm about to pick, but I'm going to choose... That's funny, though, because this made me think about something else, so we'll talk about this later. My album choice, kind of in a comeback, type thing. It was an anticipated album, wasn't really through hiatus. It was only a 3-year gap in these albums, but the album is The Off Season. It was released on May 14th this year by J. Cole. I'm a big fan when any rapper comes out that's not like the Migos wave. I think the mumble rap wave has taken on its own life to where it's becoming so repetitive and no uniqueness value to it that it's becoming almost annoying. Like Lil Uzi Vert, some of the guys early on I was able to accept. Like it was decent music to listen to. But now it's just become so fucking played out that the moment I can hear some like true lyricist or real rapper come out there and like put something out nowadays, it's like I fucking salivate at the opportunity.
Yeah.
So yeah, J. Cole's new album that came out in May called The Off Season. I'm gonna recommend the track Interlude.
Nice.
That's the recommendation. Well,
for this season, we're not going to do group movie suggestions because I feel like no one really watches these anyway.
Yeah, we're done.
Yeah, we're done doing group
If you want a
suggestions.
personal movie suggestion outside of just music related, you can go to our sister podcast.
Yeah, Basement Box Office Podcast.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, because, like, honestly, like nowadays, I really don't have time to like sit down and like watch a movie.
It's rough.
So
we've just been recommending shit we saw when we were 15.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's just like, hey, have you seen Almost Famous recently?
Yeah, exactly. So I think what you should do is as well, put in a disclaimer, like, beep, due to technical difficulties, this will no longer be on the air. Stay tuned to YouTube for our second episode that will make it on there. You know what I mean? Do something like that. Because, sorry, we apologize. We did talk about, like, oh, look at us on fucking camera, yet we're not on fucking camera anymore.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we could talk about this on the show.
This is
right
super
now.
punk rock about it. Our fucking camera's overheated or some shit on us.
Yeah, fucking format SD cards. We've practiced this thing multiple times.
So we apologize to all our listeners and soon-to-be viewers out there because we fucking lied to you.
Yeah.
Right to your fucking ears.
I'm sorry.
Yep, we're sorry.
Sorry, dog.
You heard it here first. If you don't accept this apology, please hit us up on our social.
Yeah. If that apology wasn't good enough for you, you can find us on our social media accounts, Instagram and Twitter at RATM Podcast, Facebook.com/RATM Podcast. And of course, if those characters aren't enough for you for social media, you can email us your displeasure at ratmpodcast@gmail.com. But until then, this is Rage Against the Mainstream signing off for the evening. As always, I'm Bill.
I'm Steve.
Have a good night, guys. Thanks for listening.